Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team, and this week we have on a special guest for a very special episode. To give you all a quick rundown of what I assume you've already seen in the title of this episode, we are going to do an actual play of Pathfinder and Starfinder. We are going to be mixing the two in this episode, and hopefully it'll be a lot of fun. Joining me is Ramon and his character.
Hey guys, it's Ramon, your other half of the Win with Dice podcast. I'm playing Levi, who is a gladiator. He was born for the ring. He's a monk, and I'm going to be throwing some hands and doing that cool monk things. Totally not been playing a lot of Street Fighter lately, so may or may not be influencing me on this one. But I will be representing, I guess, the Pathfinder portion of this special scenario.
And also joining is our special guest, Tim.
Howdy, thank you very much for having me back. I will be playing with Eklek, who is a Skittermander Witchwarper. He has had visions of a great wormhole that will deliver him into an incredible new world with untold riches and great foods, and he is manipulating the fabric of space-time and magic and all that sort of thing to basically find his way there. And I'll be representing the Starfinder side of the game.
Ooh, okay. So, I don't want to stall too long because I want to get right into this episode. I'm sure it's going to be a long one. I'm sure it's going to be a two-parter. I think people who are listening to this will know either way. There are some house rule stuff we are going to be dealing with as we play, like the critical hit deck and things like that. But as they come up, I will mention them, just so people who are listening to this understand what's going on, and people who are playing understand what's going on. If you are on YouTube, there will be occasional visuals. I will throw up some imagery, some art, and I will put some links in the description below as to where this art was sourced from. Or just, again, mention it as it comes up. But with all that flim-flam out of the way, let's hop into this adventure that I didn't give a title, so now I will give it the title of Double Duality.
That works.
I think it fits, right? I mean, we'll see. But we begin on the planet of Galarian, in the Resturant forest. It is a massive woodland in the continent of Avestan. It sits on the border between Andorran, Galt, and Taldor, and despite being between these different regions, it has a sort of peace unto itself. Or at least it did for a time, until tensions were building near the Andorran border, as the Lumber Consortium was sort of overstepping their bounds a bit, cutting down more trees than they need to manage for the increased demand with the war impending. And this tension can be felt throughout the forest. It is a very warm, very temperate day. The trees above barely give enough shade to provide cover from the heat that seems to be constantly growing as the day progresses. And this is where we join our half-orc friend, Levi. Levi, you've been hired as sort of protection, is basically what the job entailed. Perhaps in between gladiatorial matches and bouts. Or mouts, as the case may be. Between gladiatorial events, you may be occasionally picking up some odd jobs on the side, typical adventurer lifestyle, and you find yourself in the employ of an elf by the name of Cassiel, who insisted you call her Cass. And Cass has hired you essentially to watch her back as she is traveling into the Resturant forest. Now, what she described on the job board was that she just needed some backup as she was doing some research on flora and fauna within the forest. But it's after about a day or so of travel, I will say you are perceptive enough to notice that she hasn't done a whole lot of research, and in fact, seems to be more that she is looking for something. Whatever it is, she hasn't communicated it with you, and she's been a bit cagey about it, but I think as we come into this very warm afternoon, there's maybe a brief moment in the midst of this exploration where she's merely pacing back and forth. And I would ask, how far does Levi's patience extend? There's no stat on sheets for a patience number, but you've kind of been strung along for at least a day or so at this point.
Well, how long was the job meant for? And have we seen any action since then, or has it just been
Oh, it's certainly
pretty quiet?
It's certainly gone on longer than was described. It was meant to be like just a day going to maybe a particularly dangerous area, so she just wants a second pair of eyes. Or a third, really, because she seems to have this little plant creature that follows her around and follows her orders. As far as danger, the occasional bit of wildlife, the same thing you're probably pretty used to, as if you were traveling and rolling on a random table. Occasionally, you'll come across like a wolf or some wild animal or something that you may need to either fend off or avoid. Nothing too unexpected, but at the same time, this is taking a lot longer than you anticipated.
I think that Levi would probably be, well, sitting under some shade as much as possible, kind of like tapping his foot, getting a little annoyed. And if I could, I would like to engage with Cass and say, what are we actually looking for? Because so far we have been out here for way longer than the job has entailed on the message board. And I'm going to have to start charging you by the hour.
And when she hears charging, she does look up, just from wherever her thoughts may have taken her. And she's like, oh, yes, I'll of course compensate you for your time. It's just my research project has taken me in an unexpected direction. And things aren't where I expected they would be.
I mean, all we really did was fight a couple wolves and been walking around. This heat's unbearable. What are you looking for?
And you can see that there is a frown on her face as she is making perhaps some calculations in her head about how much she should say about something. And she looks over her shoulder as if she's expecting someone to be there. But of course, being in a forest, all there really is just the occasional chirp of something flying overhead. And she will say, okay, perhaps I've been somewhat duplicitous in the realities of this job, but I really needed a hand out here, and I figured this would be the simplest thing.
I mean, I have doubled the hands, so
that
might as well put them to work.
That you do. I'm actually looking for somebody. I'm not looking for a plant or animal, but a person.
A person? Who? What do they look like? Why did you hire me? I'm no tracker.
Well, the tracking is a bit of an issue, but no, I'm expecting a fight when I find this person. She's a friend of mine, or perhaps more than a friend. We never quite got things figured out. She is a halfling by the name of Darlia. She actually used to live out here amongst the other druids. She had a place over that way. She had this sanctuary that she built for a number of spiders within the forest. Not really my thing, but it was very sweet in its own way. Unfortunately, that spider sanctuary was recently destroyed by the Lumber Consortium, who I'm sure you've heard of. I tried to console her, but she, let's just say she was very angry, and she turned to vengeful, and she turned to some power I didn't understand, something she wouldn't tell me about, but something that drew her deeper into the forest. She said she found something here that she could use as a weapon. I don't know what it is, and I don't know exactly where it is, but considering how we left things, I can't imagine she's in a good space right now. And she also has a giant poisonous spider that follows her, and, well, I kind of didn't want to get poisoned. Hence, hiring you and your two hands.
Oh, right. So, I can get bit. Okay. Instead of you.
Well, you're made of tougher stuff
Fair
than
enough.
I am.
Clearly. Okay. But we still don't know where we're going or how to find this source of power that she found, that your friend found.
Not as of yet, but maybe with your help, we'll be able to zero in on it, I believe is the phrase. I'm just hoping that I can find her before she does something undoable. Something that she regrets. I don't know what it is that she's found, but it's made her act differently. She's become an angrier person. Not just about the spiders, but there's something influencing her.
All right, then. And Levi gets up, wipes the sweat from his brow, shakes like his shirt to get some wind in there and cracks his knuckles and is like, let's go find this lady. Okay.
You took this a lot better than I thought you would. How are you with maps?
Yes, I can map.
That will have to do. And as those two start walking in potentially the correct direction, we, the viewer, move elsewhere, entirely elsewhere, into a different place, into a different time, perhaps even different reality in and of itself. As we move to the planet of Castrovel, within the region called the Bulwarks. Now, the planet of Castrovel is home to several different species, the elves, rather significantly, the Lashunta, and the Formians. Now, the Lashunta and the Formians have been in the middle of millennia-long war, and peace has only occurred in the last few recent decades. So there are still some tensions between the two, including within the Bulwarks, this cluster of islands that was once a hotly contested war zone. After peace was brokered with some help from the Shirin people, this area was handed over, or ceded over rather, to the elves, which some people on both sides had issue with, but the elected monarchs all came into agreement to do so. And this is where we find ourselves. It is a hot day on Castrovel. The entire planet is largely covered in jungle-like areas, and that is where we find ourselves, within a forest within another time that also has the sun beating down upon it, and the trees providing not as much shade as they could. However, this forest sits on the border of a small city area. There are flying vehicles moving in and out of this space, ships dropping off their cargo or different people arriving, and that is where we find our other friend, a small skittermander by the name of Eklek. Eklek, you have been hired for a job. There is a person who has reached out to you, a Shirin by the name of Koskaru, who says that he needs an expert on what he described as multi-dimensional anomalies. With your experience as a witch warper, you seem to have popped up on Koskaru's list. You've been invited to join him at a small bar within this town that sits at sort of the edge of a deeper forested area within the Bulwarks. And upon arriving, you would find within this space, it's fairly lively. There's a handful of, there's clusters of people all around enjoying themselves. And you would see Koskaru sort of at a table to himself, patiently waiting for you with a drink in hand.
Hi, new friend. I'm here to help.
Okay, I have to ask, are you saying just as you come in, or as you get to the table?
Probably upon spotting our new Shirin friend. So probably getting to the table.
So, he seems like he was maybe deep in thought or something, because he's a little startled by that. He's just like, oh, hello. I didn't expect you to be so, loud. Hello, I'm Koskaru, and that must make you Eklek.
That's me, and Eklek will shake with his right middle hand extended. As a skittermander, he has 6 hands.
And Koskaru will return the handshake, just using one hand. Or at least the hand on one side. And he will say, sorry for bringing you out here on such a hot day, but I needed an expert for a task. I hope you're up for it.
I'm always happy to help. What do you need?
He will order a drink from this robotic barmaid. I guess he's not really sure what you're into, so he will just get something cold.
Eklek is small and will scurry up onto a stool and then have whatever is given.
So he will continue with the description, just saying, once we get into things, you might not be as excited about it. I am looking into some corporate issues, specifically with Abadar Corps. One of their executives, an elven woman by the name of Lucia Morsolor, she's recently been making some interesting moves, let's say, including hooking herself up with a lab in this area. Abadar Corps had some internal investigations, and the stewards also became interested during some unusual, strange purchases that she had made outside of company mandate. And the company auditors and forensic investigators each one of them has mysteriously disappeared. Now, there's nothing solid linking any of this to Lucia herself, but clearly there's something going on here. In the research that she was doing, at least anything that wasn't wiped or removed from her computers, what the stewards were able to find is something related to some sort of magical object that she found. In specifics, she was looking into something multidimensional that we couldn't entirely make sense of. Unfortunately, a lot of the data was lost, which is why I have been brought in. And he shows you sort of this small badge that I think you, as perhaps someone who has been in the Pact Worlds for some time, would recognize as the badge of a member of the stewards.
Interesting. Eklik will go, ooh, very important then. Well, I'll do what I can. Where should I start?
And he will say, well, first I wanted to do a little bit more research around here into the lab itself. It is somewhere within this forested area, but I wanted to see if we could maybe ask around and get a few more details. You've got a pretty friendly face, it was half the reason I hired you, was your expertise and the fact that you seem pretty sociable. So I thought between the two of us, we could do a bit more research before we charge into this. There might be people who know something that we weren't able to find out with our previous investigation.
That sounds great. Well, let's have another drink first. It's hot. And then we can go and talk.
You read my mind. So Koskaru happily gets another drink with you. And then we come to our skill challenge. So I will switch back to Pathfinder land for a bit. For Levi and Cassiel, Ramon, you'll have control of both characters. Essentially, I just wanted to do a skill challenge with the two of you looking for wherever it is that Darlia has gone. And then, as well, for Eklik and Koskaru, Tim, you have control of both characters. You're just going to be doing some research, if you can, as to what may be going on with the lab that Lucia has made a purchase of. Or at least the land around it she's made a purchase of, I should say. And maybe what she might be working on over there, or what to expect. And we will just start with our fantasy characters. So, for the purposes of this, I'm just going to be using the victory point system. So you're essentially trying to get to 4 victory points.
Okay, cool.
Actually, sorry, I'd written down as 3 victory points.
Sounds easier.
Yeah, adjusting for time as well. But essentially, it's like, with a success, you get 1 point. With a critical success, you get 2. On a critical failure, you lose 1. And if you fail, you just don't get anything.
I see. Okay.
And again, you can use either character. I would just prefer if you manage to use each at least once.
All right. Well, is there like a scene or something that we're going off of? Or we're just like in the forest doing stuff? Because if anything, I think I can roll survival.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well then, I think that Cass is better at everything except for climbing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is just a skill thing. If you have a skill that you want to use and you could describe how you would use it in this situation, then absolutely go for it.
All right, awesome. I think that I'm gonna let Cass kind of take the lead and rolling some survival as like she tries to navigate through the forest, and she has a better idea anyway of where we need to go. So I'm gonna let her take the reins for the first bit, so she can roll some survival.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm looking for, but she rolled not the greatest.
She indeed did not. That would be a failure for this particular skill challenge. She is using player character stats, so she does have a hero point if you want to use that. And I do have it set up with the homebrew rule that if you roll 10 or below on the die, it will add 10.
Okay, then like a reroll and then it adds 10. Then I will...
Yeah, if you want to use it here or if you want to use a different skill instead.
How many chances do we get?
I'm going to say for the purposes of this skill challenge, each character can use a skill once.
Okay. What I'm going to do is, so I'm going to have Cass use survival to kind of follow some trails. She's like getting low to the ground, you know, she's like focusing, trying to like pick up where this, I don't know, this latent evil, not evil, but I guess potentially dangerous and like, I guess, natural source of power is coming from. But then she fails to notice that she's about to like walk off a cliff. And I'm going to roll some acrobatics for Levi to try and stop her from, you know, falling off of a cliff.
Okay. That would be very helpful.
All right, let's roll it up. Acrobatics. Well, that's not the best either.
So that was a 14 on the die for our listener, or 14 total, I should say, for our listeners.
14 total, yeah.
Okay, I will be completely honest. Neither of those are successes. So in your attempt to save Cass from falling, you do succeed, but you are not currently any closer to your goal at the moment.
I think we both almost fall off the cliffside, and then I look at Cass and be like, why? She's like, I don't know.
Very distracted right now. I think it might just be easier just to stay in one setting for the challenge, so we can continue with the Pathfinder characters, just so I can stay in one space on my notes.
Okay, Cass mentions that I'm just gonna say that she's like, we have to go down the cliff, so we're gonna scale the cliff now. Since we're already hanging over. And I'm going to use athletics for that. And please, Pathfinder gods, I need some good rolls. Come on. Sarenrae. Yay.
There we go. That's some rolling. That is 1 victory point towards your goal as you manage to make your way down these cliffs. They're surprisingly steep for this area, but you manage to stay on and you keep Cass from falling as well.
Okay. Burn my acrobatics, burn my athletics, burn Cass's survival. I'm going to roll survival now, because she can't be trusted. Just use my wits about me. 19.
So you've been following Cass for some time, and while maybe she's just been very distracted with the fact that she's on the trail of this dear friend of hers, but you do manage to pick up a direction to start moving in. You're basically following where it gets quieter, if that makes sense, where there's less sounds of animals rustling in the trees, birds flying overhead. It's as if they're avoiding this area, and something is telling you, something's drawing you there, as you now have 2 successes.
Okay. Nice. So then, we're going. I'm following my gut instinct that something's off. Then I'm going to use Cass's knowledge nature to really hone in on what's going on here. Here we go. Ooh!
Nat 20. Okay, actually, you know what? With a nat 20, bringing you to 4 successes out of 3. So, Cass has been trying to rely on the more practical skills of survival and tracking, but now she's leaning into the stranger, ethereal, magical skills of just understanding nature around her. She's tapping into sort of the flow of magic that exists within this area, between each plant, between each creature. And she picks up on something up ahead. She describes it as having a strange smell, almost like a fungus. And it seems there's some sort of concentration of it in a certain direction, as well as some strange magic that she can't identify entirely what the source of it is, but it feels like a bridge reaching out to something else, like a half-finished bridge or a doorway. But she can sense something with that nat 20, and you two have a direction to follow in now.
Awesome.
Meanwhile, or elsewhile, for Koskaru and Eklek, what would you two like to do? You can use some social skills here, or some more physical stuff if you want to go navigate the forested area.
Yeah, I've got a few ideas for this. So I think Eklek being hired to help be sociable and interact with the public and gain information that way is going to try and do a society skill to, learn from people who are willing to talk and get a bit of an understanding about the networks involved going on with just the general who's missing, what's happened.
Okay, go for it. With a 21, that is a success. So
excellent.
You learn a bit. So the lab that existed, or that exists there, it did belong to a company that was doing a smaller company, definitely not Abadar Corps. It was a smaller company that was doing some research in the area. They were very secretive about it. There were definitely a lot of rumors that existed. A lot of people were trying to figure out, what could they be working on in there? And no one ever worked there, despite the fact that they would sometimes frequent this bar or this area in general. They were all under some sort of extremely secret contract, so they couldn't speak about it even if they wanted to. And ever since Lucia moved in, all those people seem to have basically disappeared. It seems like there's no one working there anymore. Although, I will say that you do get the hint that there may be some mechanical staff there.
Okay, that's good to know. And I think Koskaru, so Eklek's been hitting up the spatial media channels, putting things out on message boards, and I think Koskaru is going to try and use some underworld lore, if possible, to find out what's been happening on the down low. You know, what do people who wouldn't normally be talking have to say about this, if possible?
Okay. 26. Okay, that is a second point. Doing some underworld research into maybe this specific area, things like that, Koskaru can pick up that there is, and I may be having some information borrowed from Eklek. Lucia has been shipping in not only equipment, but she has been shipping in security robots. She seems to have specifically avoided using any, official channels to do so, but she has brought in robots and machinery and weaponry.
Interesting. And then some of the information or schematics or whatever this was, Koskaru was talking about not having a good understanding. So I'm wondering if we can do a computers check to kind of work out with the additional information that we've learned. Can we put a bit more together about the information that we've found, or would that be a different kind of check depending on how the information has been presented to us?
I can say computers for that, because it was
Okay.
on computers. It was just got wiped and stuff, but if you look over, maybe you can sift through that broken data and find something.
Okay. Now we've got maybe a bit of a trail of what we should be looking for. So I think Eklek will try and assist Koskaru with this, if that's okay.
Oh,
so I'll do
okay.
the aid roll for Eklek first.
Okay.
Damn, I should have just gone with that roll.
I believe the DC for assist is 10 under normal circumstances.
I
is it
thought
15?
it was 15. I'll take 10.
I mean, either way, you would get a crit on that. So I crit on an aid check is a +2.
Sweet. Okay.
+2 circumstance.
Yes. Hey, it wasn't in that one.
Okay, and with that +2, that will shift that success into a critical success with a 31 total. So ending with another crit.
Oh, I already added the +2. Sorry.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, to be fair, a 29 would also be a crit, so
Okay.
a 29 would just be a crit. So, again, finishing on another critical success. As the two of you are sort of poring over this data, Eklek is able to sort of piece together certain gaps that Koskaru may have missed in his own investigation. It seems that, again, this research that Lucia was doing, it was into sort of this dimensional travel, perhaps. But Eklek, and this is where your expertise comes in actually, you recognize these sort of magical elements that she was looking into, and being on the planet of Castrovel probably get some ideas going, some gears turning. You sort of recognize something that you may have only read about before. It looks like Lucia was researching elf gates. Normally these things are used for sort of specific teleportation jumps between a specific network. What she's researching seems outside of their usual ability, but you do know that, or at least as far as you would know, as far as the research you know, they do exist on Castrovel. They mainly exist on Castrovel, and they are again used for teleportation. They are very, what's the word I'm looking for? They're very controlled, I would say. Usually it's only elves that are able to use them in the first place. It is strange that there is one just out here that it seems like no one else knew about, but this is certainly what she was looking into, and most likely what exists in that facility.
Ooh, interesting. I would like to share this with Koskaru, and... Oh no, well, no, actually I was aiding Koskaru, Koskaru's worked it out.
Yeah.
Do we know any elves? Can they help us?
I guess Koskaru responds saying, the elves are isolationist and hard to get along with sometimes, even on a good day. Especially the elves that live on Castrovel. Let's at least figure out what's going on before we tell them about it. This could all be theoretical.
Oh, I was looking forward to making new friends. Oh well.
Well, if we save some lives here, you may end up making new friends. But with that research you two have done, you do have a direction to go in now, as you have figured out where the lab is and perhaps what's going on there. Elsewhere, elsewhile, Levi and Cass, the two of you are on the outside of this cave that the magical energies have drawn you towards. You do see these patches of spider webs around the cave, and the area itself seems to be slightly unstable, but you're more than certain that Darlia is in here. certainly whatever power has drawn her is here as well.
I see. Okay. Well, I guess I mean, how's the cave? The cave is spooky. Appropriately.
Yeah, it is appropriately spooky for an adventure.
I see. Well, I guess there's no other way but in. Oh, I got Cass. Are you ready to go see your friend?
I think so. Just getting really strange vibes from the magic here. It kind of feels like I'm sure it's not what the thing that I think it is. So, but it's definitely something. It's hard to describe.
Yeah, let's keep our eyes peeled, I guess, and head in with caution.
Yeah, and I will say you do, without having to roll something, recognize that, again, that KG trying to keep a secret look on her face that you've seen several times over the past day or so.
Well, I mean, I think at this point, it can't be helped. He's in it now.
Fair enough. Okay, so it is rather dark in the cave. I'm pretty sure you do have dark vision, though, so that might be a moot point.
I do have the darkest vision.
Okay, then not really much for you to have to worry about as far as darkness goes, but can I get a perception check anyway?
All right.
Okay, so as you are moving forward, it doesn't seem as though Cass has noticed this, but Levi, you notice up ahead within the cave, there is a patch of what looks like maybe loose debris and rocks, but it seems rather specifically placed. Not something that fell there naturally. And you notice this thing sort of directly within your path.
Just like on the ground, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I hold up. I'm walking in front of Cass. I put my arm over Cass, and then I pick up a rock and toss it onto the pile of the other rocks and see if something shifts or moves.
Yeah, it strikes, it sort of clatters in, it knocks something loose, which knocks something else loose, and something falls, and then the pile of rocks collapse inward, and then you see that they were actually hiding a pit within the ground. And with your dark vision, you can see that the pit has a sheet of webbing running all around it.
I guess this is the right place for sure. There be spiders. Real big spiders. Ugh.
Yeah, she crouches down to squint at it, and she's just like, yeah, I think I recognize that web work.
You could recognize web work? That's crazy.
Well, she brought that spider everywhere. It's not my favorite thing, but, non-elven lives are so short, and this thing made her happy, so I didn't want to complain about it. But also,
okay.
It is a giant spider.
I was gonna say, it's still a giant spider.
So you are...
Is there room for us to, get across without, jumping or anything like that?
Yeah, it seems like there is a path that you can find your way through. There's, a specific place that you can walk. It seems more that if you knew it was there, then you could use it to avoid the trap. With the trap being sprung, you can see it a bit more clearly.
Okay, cool.
And avoiding that hazard, you are able to move forward. And as you keep moving, you can start to see a soft glowing light up ahead. It seems like there are some torches in a chamber where the cave widens up ahead. I want to know what kind of approach you may want to take in this situation. If you plan to be stealthy, if you plan to be not so stealthy.
I don't think Levi knows how to be stealthy, to be honest with you.
That's fair.
So I guess I look at Cass and being like, your friend's probably going to want to fight us, right?
I was trying to avoid that, but I don't think we will be able to. I have, and she holds up this spear that she's been carrying. I should be able to, if it comes to it, I can do some damage with this that won't kill her. But again, I don't know what's going to happen. Whatever's going on, I'd like to try to talk her down from it.
Okay. I guess to not be suspicious, I will just, walk. We'll just walk. I'll just walk in there and give her the benefit of the doubt that she'd be able to talk her down even a little bit.
Okay. As you walk in, you find yourself within a large chamber within this cave. Before you is a bunch of different, again, there's more debris here. It looks like some crates and barrels that have been dragged in with supplies. Whoever was in here meant to be in here for the long haul. There are some lit torches that are lighting up this chamber, so you can see it a bit more clearly. In the center of this room, there is a raised platform made of, like, dirt and wood. There's two raised platforms. One in the center that has sort of this circular shape. And on top of it, you can see there are these strange mushrooms that seem to be growing out of it. And they all seem to be leaning towards the other side of the chamber. And on that other side, you see what looks like a massive golden ring with occasional sparks of blue light coming from it. There is this alchemical sort of chemistry set that seems to be like connected or hooked up to this ring. And pacing around it, throwing in random chemicals and mixing things together, you can see this frantic-looking halfling who is being watched over by a giant spider, who does not seem to have noticed you at all, is maybe too engrossed in their work, although the spider is starting to turn around.
I think that I would let Cass handle it. I don't know how she wants to interact with a friend, if she wants to be upfront, or are we trying to apprehend her now, you know?
So, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So Kat steps forward, maybe clears her throat, calls out, and you see Darlia turn to look at you. This halfling turns around and sort of almost, like, first looks over at that cluster of mushrooms that seems to be growing in the middle of the room, and then turns to look at you, just saying, What are you doing here? And who's this guy? And I guess in the interest of not having a back and forth, I guess I can do a back and forth conversation with myself. Sure, why not? Cass responds, just saying, I could be asking you what you're doing here. And then she points forward, with an elf gate, no less. Actually, no, she wouldn't call it that. With an Ayudara, no less. And I'm not sure how trained in society Levi is.
Are you what now?
I think maybe with that, Cass would look over her shoulder at you and just say, some people call it an elf gate, but we don't really like the term. It's meant for teleportation, and it's meant to be under the control of the elves. There shouldn't be any just lying around out here. And Darlia then perks up saying, that's true, oh gosh, I only have two voices. That's true, there shouldn't be, but there is. It's like it was waiting here for me. Waiting for when I needed it. After I lost everything, I wandered the forests. I was lost and confused, and then I found this. And I could hear something speaking to me. It came through this gate. And I started trying to put it back together as best I could with my own magics, and then these things grew, and she points to the little funguses. And then I could hear the voice. I could hear it so clearly. And it promised me vengeance. I could get back at the Lumber Consortium, at everyone who destroyed my home. I could ride through Andoran and tear it down myself, and just leave the place, a spider colony, where my family can live in peace. And I can't let either of you stop me.
That seems like we have to. I mean, there's innocent people in Andoran. The place can be regrown. You don't have to destroy everything. You can just move. I'm sure you can just make another home for your spiders.
Make a diplomacy check, why not?
Or I can intimidate her. I could
Oh,
be like,
okay.
or else.
Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, all right. I have intimidating glare, so I'll glare at her and be like, or else. Haha! It was gonna roll on a 1, but now I got 25.
Okay. She seems maybe a bit hesitant. She definitely starts to back away, and it seems like she's considering this for a moment. I'm not gonna make you roll a perception check for this. She seems like she's considering this, but you do notice that the cluster of mushrooms within the middle of the room, they start glowing with the same sort of blue glow that's sparking from this portal, and suddenly that same glow flashes over her eyes, and she turns to look at you with rage, just saying, no, I know who my true friends are, and they're on the other side of this gate. And she sort of takes a few steps away from you and then stumbles back into this alchemy setup, and she starts more frantically tweaking some different levers and knobs. She starts mixing different things together. There's a fire underneath it that starts raging and boiling this fluid, and starts pumping something around the metal of the gate. And you can see it start to glow as this circular spinning portal appears within it, and a beam of light sort of stretches out, blasting through the room. Elsewhile, just to leave you on a mini cliffhanger, elsewhile, Eklek and Koskaru, you have managed to make your way towards this lab location, but between the two of you, you're pretty sure that there's some sort of security here. It's sort of in the middle of a clearing in this jungle. There's plenty of space around. You can see the main building itself is walled off with a fence, but it's very likely that there is other security here.
Okay. If it's walled off by a fence and there's very security, then I think Eklek would try to hack any sort of camera feed to down it, whilst Koskaru uses acrobatics to kind of like jump the wall and open up a door or gate or somewhere if possible.
Okay.
Cool. So I will give you an computers roll for Eklek to try and do the hacking. I would like to use a hero point to re-roll that so we don't get caught.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I rolled a 2 again.
You did?
But thankfully, to the house rules, I have been saved.
So that is a 21 for that computer's check, then Koskaru's acrobatics check.
Yes. So oh no. Koskaru will also cash in his hero point. This is not a good look. Phew.
Okay. So you do pick up on a few things. With Eklek's computer check, he's able to pick up on some sensors around the area. It seems like there's a number of them around. With your check, you do note that there are 6 of these sensors, but you are able to, with the result of your check, I'm going to say, just so you don't have to go through all of them, you are able to take out 2 of these sensors. There are still a few in play. With Koskaru's acrobatics check, he is able to sort of slip past them. And as he's moving past, you can see that the sensors are connected to some sort of laser web. It looks like if a sensor gets tripped, then it will fire a laser beam into whatever tripped the motion sensor.
Ooh, that's not good.
Oh, actually, no, I misread this trap. You are able to disable each sensor with that computer's check.
Oh, thank goodness for that.
Okay, so I did misread the trap. I don't know, maybe I'll cut this out. But for the purposes of this, I just misread disable each sensor. I thought that meant individually. With the computer's check and the acrobatics check, you are able to slip past the sensors for this laser web.
Okay. We'll press on then, I guess, if possible.
Yep. You are able to move forward, and you can make your way into the main building. And I will ask, will you do so stealthily or not so stealthily?
That depends which one of them you're asking.
That's
Koskaru will try and be stealthy. Eklek will be going, am I helping sneaking? I've not done sneaking before. I think this is right. This is what it is in all the holo vids, right? And he's like walking on his tiptoes.
Okay, I feel like you two were kind of noticeable as you move forward into this building. There is a short hallway that you're able to make your way through after disabling the security system, and it leads into sort of the main area of this building. Ahead of you, you can see this open room/chamber. In the middle of this chamber, well, actually, I should start from the other end, because from the far end of this chamber, you see what looks like a massive golden metallic circle with blue light sparking from it. You can see that someone has hardwired this large computer console into the gate itself. And again, Eklek, you've read about these things, now you're seeing it in person. This is some sort of elf gate, but it seems to have been heavily modified and connected to this computer system. And you can see the tall elven form of Lucia is rapidly typing away at this computer. Also in the room, while you see this gate on the far side of it from you, you can see in the center of this room, on a raised circular platform, it looks like a cluster of mushrooms that seems to be growing out of even this metallic tile on the ground. And they all seem to be like leaning towards this large gate. You can also see that there are some robots in this room, and what possibly looks like a laser turret on the far side.
How does Koskaru want to analyze the situation, because I'm not sure if he's going to be thinking of taking out the laser system or if he's going to be wanting to sort of challenge Lucia.
Well, I will say with Eklek's quote-unquote stealth,
That's fair.
Lucia has certainly noticed the two of you, and she sort of turns from where she's standing. And she's at this platform at the far side of the room. It's higher than the one in the middle, so it's sort of raised and she's able to sort of like look down at you, a position perhaps she seems used to and enjoys. And she just says, "Well, this is interesting, and who are you two? There wasn't meant to be anybody else here."
Now, I as the player want to respond to that, but I do appreciate that Eklek is the hiree. Or hired, rather.
That is fair, but he's also the more chatty of the two, I would think.
That is, yeah, I ain't gonna lie, that is true. And he's gonna walk around Koskaru and be saying, "I'm Eklek. I've been hired to find out what you're up to."
And then Koskaru will say, "I'm Koskaru, and I'm here to stop whatever it is you're up to." And she will sort of look down at the two of you with almost this amused smirk. "Oh, really? Well, isn't that something? Well, you two can be the first to experience what I'm about to bring into this world. I don't suppose either of you know exactly what this is, but allow me to explain it to you." As she sort of continues, not even giving you a chance to actually say that you do know what this is. But she will say, "This is an elf gate. Magical device meant to teleport people and objects from one place to another. However, recently I've had an interesting conversation with a new friend from, let's say, out of town, perhaps very far out of town. A new friend who has promised me more wealth and power than even Abadar Core is able to offer me." Her accent's all over the place, I'm sorry, listeners. But she continues saying, "All I have to do is open the door for my, what's the phrase you Skittermanders use, new friend? And once I do that, he'd give me everything I deserve." And she will just sort of walk towards the computer console as the robots and laser turrets activate, positioning themselves in your way. And she will just say, "It will be a great honor for you to see what I'm about to do here. Is there anything that you want to do in the immediate moment before she starts activating something on the computer? Because Koskaru is going to try to move forward, but you're quite far away on the opposite side of this room."
If we're quite far away, then I feel like they're definitely going to attack.
I guess more, is there anything you want to say?
Sure. Oh, fair enough then. Right. Okay. Eklek is going to say, "Not if I help him defeat you first." And yeah, they're gonna try and rush up to them.
And she just sort of gives this haughty laugh as you say that, and she types some sort of command into this computer that's connected to this elf gate, and it starts to glow brightly with this big blue light coming from within it. Else while, and I think this might be the end of part 1, as chemicals bubble and flare and steam, they flow through these tubes that seem to have been hastily connected into this elf gate. And it makes this thing glow brighter, and it sort of fills this cave chamber, nearly blinding you, Levi, and your current partner in getting lost in a forest, Cassiel. As the light fills the chamber, it's sort of like it sends out this singular beam that tears through the chamber itself. The beam passes through the middle, the raised platform. The mushrooms that are growing there start to grow even larger. You can see there's more sprouts and occasional spores popping off of them. And as this happens, again, elsewhere, Eklek and Koskaru are both witness to something very similar happening as this beam of light sprouts out from this portal, almost seeming to split this room in half. The mushrooms that are growing out of the metal plate that's raised in the middle of this room, they start to grow larger. You can see they're like cracking through the metal, and they seem to be growing towards this beam of energy as if they're pulling power from it. As this is happening, on one In one place, you see these fungi tendrils reach out from the gate itself, the newly opened portal within it. And they reach out and they connect themselves to the back of Darlia's neck. Similarly, elsewhere, you see these fungi tendrils that reach out of the portal, being quite a surprise to Lucia, as they sort of wrap themselves around her and then pierce into the back of her neck. As this is happening, as you're both standing in front of these corrupted elf gates that have been connected to, one to this strange alchemy set, the other to this computer that is running as fast as it can to do some calculations. The room itself seems to shimmer. This beam that's tearing through it, you can sort of see something on the other side. And it looks like this strange, hazy vision for both of you. Levi, you see what looks like a room made of metal, with strange towers and obelisks all around it. Strange glowing pillars and metallic creatures and beings you don't recognize suddenly appear in one side of this chamber. Meanwhile, Eklek, the metal lab seems to disappear on one half of the room and is now replaced with the interior of a cave. You can see torches lining the walls, broken boxes, a giant spider for some reason, and webs all around. And while both of you are seeing this, both of you then hear a deep voice that seems to be, like, you see Darlia's mouth move, Levi, and Eklek, you see Lucia's mouth move, but it's a deep voice that is not either of their voices, but it's coming from their mouth. But you hear this voice say, "I am assuming direct control of these entities, and soon I will control your worlds," as these two are looking at you at individual sides. As suddenly the room almost tears itself apart as something has corrupted these gates, corrupted these people, causing them to activate these gates, and is now pulling itself into two different worlds at the same time. And as that's happening, I'm going to give you two a quick preview of the battle map.
Whoa.
But that's going to be, I think, our first session for now, because we are going into perhaps an intense combat.
Yeah. It looks wild.
Interesting. Okay.
That's a cool way of doing that. I actually really like that a lot.
That's been really fun,
Curious.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how we all interact with this thing, because I'm sure the viewers are seeing the map, but yeah, this is dope.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I worked very hard on this map. I will put up the image of it if people are curious. I might put it on the website if people want to use it for whatever reason. But I think we're going to end the episode here because it's a little over an hour, and I feel like this combat is going to take an hour unto itself. So this will be a two-parter, of course, because it's our 222 special. But yeah, I think that's going to be the episode for now. If you two want to give perhaps a outro or how you're feeling, if anything, and then next episode we will do this combat. How was the session, at least? I should probably ask.
I've loved it. This has been great. I've not been sure where you've been going with this. It's not where I thought it was, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how I absolutely get rinsed, having already burnt through my hero tokens.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool. I think that the coolest part was when the two sides were connected by this obviously evil entity. But yeah, like it's pretty cool, and I love the two worlds colliding. It's pretty dope.
Yeah, I'm very excited to get into this, but it's gonna have to wait, and unfortunately, people are gonna have to wait as well for next week.
Leave a comment down below, folks, on who you think this entity is going to take over. My money's on the mushrooms. They've become sentient.
It's definitely something. But yeah, thanks to both of you for joining me on this strange game that I wasn't sure how it was going to work, but I just trusted the process, and it turned out really well. So I hope people enjoy listening to this. But that is going to be the episode for now. Again, if you're on YouTube, there will be some visuals to this. If you're listening on Spotify or other podcast platforms, there may be a link to the website where I'll put up some of the token images. A lot of them are from the Chepeku token site, where you can sort of create your own token if you actually pay for it, which I have not yet, but I'm very tempted to do so because there's some really good token art there. You can customize it as you like. They also do really great maps, and maybe one day they'll sponsor us, who knows. In addition, we are playing Pathfinder 2nd Edition and Starfinder 2nd Edition, just jamming the two together. So if you are interested in those games, there'll be a link to the Paizo website where you can pick up the Starfinder playtest or pick up Pathfinder 2nd Edition. And then Starfinder's going to be out in like a little over a month, so you better get ready. I guess shout outs as well. If you are on YouTube, there are links below in the description to all the people we've had on the show, to a bunch of Lancer RPG writers and creators. You can check out our stuff, the previous podcast episodes where we talk about these games and talk about Lancer and talk about our own previous sessions or other fun ideas and things that we have going on. A whole bunch of stuff. There are specific things I need to mention. I think the Crit Awards... Oh, the voting might be over by the time people are hearing this. I'm not entirely sure. But there are a couple of people. Vault Companions is one of the channels that's nominated for an award, as well as Kane by Tom Bloom is nominated for an award. So if you can still vote, check that out. And Ramon, if you want to shout out Mechanized Body and Project Versus, which we recently uploaded a playtest of.
Yeah, I'm busy. If you guys like sci-fi crossovers, I sure have a crossover for you. If you like TTRPGs, mechs, and making cool decks and playing them, check out Mechanized Body. We have a Discord. We are, constantly running playtest games. If you, again, like cards, like mechs, I think it's really awesome, a really fun game. And we're testing out like a new way of putting together your deck and some new cool NPCs. Trey's got this cool way of running them where they're more like Elden Ring bosses, where, they have a certain pattern that the players get to figure out and take advantage of, or, get stomped. That's cool too. And also, if you like fighting games and like tabletop RPGs, I am working on a tabletop RPG that's inspired by all those cool fighting games and beat-em-ups called Project Versus, where you get to think through and make very hard decisions, as Calvin found out. Go watch the playtest that we uploaded last week. Go check out the playtest document, and hopefully, if you guys like it, we'll put some more of that information out on the YouTube channel and run more playtest games there, for sure.
Indeed. Tim, thanks again for coming on the show. Always looking for an excuse to have you on. I'm sure we'll find another reason. Well, we do have to bring you on for part 2 of this. But is there anything else you want to say before we end the episode?
Just to remind folks to hit the like button, subscribe if you're not subscribed. Calvin and Ramon do great sessions every week. There's usually some great advice or really interesting topics that they're covering, and they're great fun to listen to. So, have more of that cool vibes in your life.
Yeah, I really hope people enjoy this. I had a lot of fun playing this with you two. You two are at the very top of my list of specific people I would want to do this specific thing with. So, yeah, hopefully people like it. But I think that's gonna do it for the episode. If you enjoyed this, then let us know, and we may do some other similar things in the future. But I think that's it for now. So to all our GMs and players out there who are finding their paths and finding their stars, just remember to keep on winning with dice, and we'll see you next time.
See ya, folks.
Bye, guys.